You all have been given the facts. Another case, and it shows that radicalization remains a serious threat in Singapore. This case, latest case, 20-year-old young man, he was affected by the Israel-Palestine conflict, so he wanted to kill Jews. So we now have 32 Singaporeans picked up since 2015. 31 of them affected by ISIS, Syria, now Palestine, and one young boy, far right. A few weeks ago, the facts came out. But the common thread across all these cases is that they were thinking of using violence. Amirul, this young man, was serving his full-time national service with the SAF at the time of his arrest this year. MINDEF alerted ISD about him, and ISD's investigations confirmed that he had become radicalized. Amirul was very serious. He had made detailed preparations. He had a knife prepared for his attack. He studied carefully the human vascular blood system. He decided to target the abdomen area because he said that's where there'll be heavy bleeding. It'll cause quick death. He made a replica knife to practice stabbing and grip techniques. He actually practiced stabbing and grip techniques. He physically wrecked the synagogue twice, identified an ambush site, thought through exactly how he would execute his attack, but again, was careful not to take photos because he didn't want to get noticed taking photos. So he didn't want to alert security forces. And he intended to kill at least 3 Jewish men, on the assumption that they would have served national service in Israel. But actually, a large part of our Jewish community are Singapore citizens. They would have served national service in Singapore. He also planned his escape route after the attack and intended to post a short manifesto online. So you see, these ideas are gathering steam. He wanted to incite others to carry out similar attacks. And he was serious about traveling to Gaza. He wanted to fight against Israel. He discussed with a foreign contact his intention to travel to Gaza. He made a replica AK-47 and practiced rifle handling techniques with it. He researched travel routes to Gaza. And he told ISD that if he had made it to Gaza, he did not want to come back home. He had no intention of coming home. And he wanted to die as a martyr there. This is the first time for us that a self-radicalized Singaporean who has been picked up under the ISA, who was primarily driven by the Palestine-Israel conflict. But let's be clear. He is not being detained because he sympathized with the Palestinian cause. He is being detained because he wanted to kill innocent people in Singapore to show his support for the Palestinians. It's perfectly okay to support the Palestinian cause, but it's not okay to go around killing people. If he had succeeded in his plans, the consequences for us would be very serious. It will go beyond the loss of the 3 lives, or however many he managed to kill. It would probably incite a greater animosity, distrust between different races and religions in Singapore. Muslim community leaders and others have come here today at the synagogue to show their solidarity with the local Jewish community, sending a clear message that the community does not condone violence, which is the reason why I decided to come to the synagogue as well, meet with the rabbi, meet with the Jewish community leaders, explain to them, assure them that we are constantly watchful. But as I said just a few weeks ago, and it's unfortunate that we are having these discussions within such a short space of time. Again, ISD has to succeed every single time. Whoever has these intentions needs to succeed only once. So that is a challenge that ISD faces. But here, again, ISD's actions prevented a possible terrorist attack. I think, MINDEF was also very alert. They alerted ISD in the first place earlier this year. Thank you. We can take questions now. Yes.
Good morning, Minister. This is Pei from Zambia. As you mentioned just now, the youth arrested, he actually sympathized with the Palestinian cause, and he was also seized by the conflict in Gaza where many people have died. I'm just wondering whether you could explain the government government's view on the Israel-Palestinian situation?
Well, government's view is on record, and our position is that we support the right of the Palestinian people to a homeland under a two-state solution. We also recognize the right of Israelis to live in enduring peace and security. We've made that very clear, and we have said there should be a peaceful resolution to the conflict through a negotiated two-state solution consistent with UN Security Council resolutions. Before I became Home Minister, I was Foreign Minister. I had to deal with these issues, and I've made all these points. In 2014, when I was Foreign Minister, there was, in our view, a disproportionate use of force in Gaza by Israel. There were severe civilian casualties. In Parliament, I said that we felt that was not right, and I called for an immediate cessation of hostilities and violence. So that's a government viewpoint. We were very clear, and we have gone on record to say that. I've said it, and my predecessors as well as successors have said it too. So people in Singapore are entitled to support the Palestinian cause or other causes. They are entitled to support Israel, they are entitled to support Palestine, they are entitled to support any other cause. What you can't do is take a knife out or a gun out to kill Jews or anyone else. That we can't accept. And that is what this young man is being detained for.
Minister Vanessa from CNN here. This is the second case we're seeing in about 3 months. And in this case, as well as the previous case, these guys are lone wolves, lone actors. How are we going to track them and make sure we succeed?
Well, your question carries the answer. It is going to be very difficult. And as I said, we have been lucky so far. I mean, it's not pure luck. ISD has been on top of it. But as I said on other occasions, how does ISD know if someone, and it can be a very quick self-radicalization, wakes up one morning after having been thinking about it for a while, takes out a knife, goes out there, and does something. So there are these risks. It's an ever-present risk. It's going to require the community to be vigilant, the family to help. So far, many of these cases have come to light because a family has told us, friends have told us, people around, but also because ISD has built up the capacity to pick up signs of self-radicalization, but it can never be perfect.
Morning.
Yeah, and it is a serious risk.
Harris from Straits Times here. It's the second reported case of not just the lone wolf, but also a case of people who plan to attack religious sites here. Your comments, please, and what do you think of the suggestion that some might say that we need more security at such religious sites?
I was asked the very same question in a slightly different form a few weeks ago, and my response then and my response today is this. When you walk into a synagogue or a church or a temple or a mosque, how would you feel if the place looks like a fortress, a cantonment, with armed guards patrolling it? Is that how we want to turn our places of worship into? I think there needs to be some level of security. And depending on the perception of threat, there may have to be some guards inside. But I think we need to be very, very careful how we do it. And otherwise, places of worship won't look or feel like places of worship. The young man a few weeks ago wanted to attack a mosque. Imagine if you turned all mosques into fortresses. How would it feel? So it's a balance. You are absolutely right, because they are targeting religious sites, because people come in with an open mind and open heart very often. And I think the security measures may have to be stepped up a bit to balance off the risks that are increasing. I can't give you a definite answer for the future. It has to depend on how the threats evolve. But my own sense is that not all religious sites will have to be protected to the same level. Some face a higher threat level, and they may have to take some additional measures.
So Amirul was working with a foreign contact. Based on investigations, do you think there's cause to believe that foreign interference is at play?
Not specifically as a foreign government or state agency being involved. We have no evidence of that as yet. But exchange of ideas, and to some extent, he was influenced by this foreign contact.
I wanted to expand on Harrison's point. So you did mention that some places will require more security. Could you give us some examples?
I don't want to go into specifics, though we have some clear ideas, because that would then be laying out tactically, which places will be better protected and less protected. But the broad approach has got to be different religious sites carry different threat levels. And according to that, there may have to be differences in the way they are protected. I think that's a principled answer that I will give. And we will work with different sites to alert them. There may have to be more hardware. There may also have to be some guards, but perhaps in a more discreet way.
Minister Hazike from CNA Digital, would you be able to share how MINDEF might have picked up on Amirul's radicalization?
I think you should ask MINDEF. I think they will be quite careful in giving you an answer.
Good morning, Minister. So, Howie from Shanmugam. This is another case of youth self-radicalizing. Are there any concerns for, when it comes to youth?
Of course there are concerns. I mean, when a 16-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old, different persons from different religions, want to do this, it shows you that radicalization is reaching to younger and younger people. Internet, what's available, it causes them to go astray, partly because they are not because of any fault of the religious authorities, but they are not exposed enough to the real teachings of the religion, whether it's Islam or Christianity or any other religion. None of them tell you to go out there and kill people. They all say treat people of other religions with love and care and protect them as much as you protect yourself. So those teachings don't come through. It's the violence that you see in the internet that comes through to some. I mean, to be fair, it's a very small minority. But that small minority can create a deep division within society.
Minister Junsen from today. So the fact is that this is an attack that could have almost happened if it weren't detected. And
Yes.
the fact is that MINDEF made the difference by making a report. Could you talk about our vulnerabilities in our ability to detect all these cases as they arise?
I gave that answer to CNA just now. If you look at the pattern that we are seeing, you will see what the difficulties are. Young people, they go on the internet. There isn't enough supervision. When they talk about it to their friends, to their teachers, to their families, very often we get alerted because the families care for these young people. And they know that this path could be very, very bad. And so they alert. That's a substantial number. We are able to talk to them. The religious instruction is given to them. They are helped with their education, and they come out of it. Right? That's the majority of cases. Now, in the overall context, even that is a minority, right? Most people don't become radicalized in this way. Then a small minority, they go on the internet, they keep it to themselves. Like Amirul didn't give any indication of violent tendencies. He practiced his stabbing techniques in private. He didn't tell his family. He talked about the Palestinian cause, but he never talked about using violence. He never talked about coming out to kill Jews. So he had a plan, and he knew what he had to keep quiet about because he didn't want to be identified, caught. So he was quite smart about it in that way. So when you get a person like that, or Also, not infrequently, you get people who within a matter of weeks, 3-4 weeks, get radicalized. So there isn't much time to, identify their movements. They see something in week 1, by week 3, they feel angry and they want to go and do something. So that's the other challenge, the very quick period for radicalization that we are seeing. And in both these cases, these types of cases, categories, and if they decide, in Singapore, thankfully, you can't get weapons of mass destruction, as it were, rifles and guns and so on. But you can get a knife. And you have cars, which you can use to ram people if you have a driving license. Or even without a driving license, a young man who was 16 intended to take a car, too. That presents a serious challenge. It does present a challenge. I'll be blunt about it.
We can take one last question.
Minister, Amirul read a book glorifying the actions of the Hamas military wing. How do we ensure that such books are not in circulation in Singapore?
They are not available in Singapore. He picked it up when he was outside, and his family, I think, didn't even know that he had that book. But the honest answer is, you don't need a hard copy book. You can find a fair bit of this stuff on the internet. And it's not possible to cut all that out. You can still find your way towards finding exhortations to violence, whether on the far right or on the side of Islam. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Sorry, Mr. Are there any concerns that youth radicalization is becoming a trend, and do you think COVID-19 has played a part in this?
I don't think that it's specific to COVID-19. It's just that if you look at the internet usage, it's pretty high amongst young people and across all ages. It's necessary now for your schooling, for your work. It's part and parcel, a key part of our lives, right, using internet. So it's not, I think, specific or triggered off by COVID-19. Second, I don't think it's a specific trend that you narrow down to youth. It's just that young people, like slightly older people and so on, have much more access to the internet. But when you are a bit older, you have had more time to be steeped into your religion. You have had more life factors around you. Maybe you're married, you have a family. You have balancing factors, and you understand a bit more, so you have that balance to carry you through and see things in greater perspective. When you are younger, you have less of that. But that doesn't mean that older people don't get radicalized. We have picked up older people too. But I think when you're younger, you have less guidelines. Your family is your main guideline, your friends. But if you don't talk about it to your family, you don't talk about it to your friends, and you are living in your own world, then you have less of life lessons to guide you. I mean, I could put it in that way, but I think we need to be careful in thinking that only young people get radicalized. Okay, you know the facts. We have picked up people in their 30s, 40s, 50s. Okay. Thank you.